Of course, you're practically my neighbor here. That's what we call somebody who lives an hour away in St. Louis is your neighbor.
Yeah, I'm not going to give away the location because this is really just a warehouse, a facility where they produce the microphones. They put them together. In fact, stick around because at the end of this live stream, we're going to show you a quick 2-minute video of the warehouse and just give you a quick little tour of what it looks like. We'll just play that for you at the end here. But man, I'm excited to be here again. I was here maybe 4 years ago. We did a meetup.
Yeah, a podcaster meetup when we all still sort of gathered in large groups.
Yeah, now there's small
and
groups.
ate pizza together.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was good. So what we're going to be doing here tonight is we're going to be showing you. We're going to demonstrate. I love demonstration, not explanation. We're going to demonstrate how different voices sound on different microphones. Because I can sound great on this PR40, or I might sound even better on a PR30, and it might sound like garbage on another Heil product. They're all great microphones. Which one's best for me? Which one's best for Michelle? She's got a different voice than me.
Yeah, it's so true. Microphones are a lot like shoes. Like every shoe sort of fits a foot differently because everybody's foot is different. A voice has a natural frequency response and a microphone has a frequency response of its own. So if you can sort of match those two up, you can actually sound just like yourself with no EQ and no processing at all.
Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do EQ, you got to know that there's a difference. And maybe it is something where you recommend a change to a microphone. Maybe you can give us pointers on which mics sound better and which type of voices. I've got a low voice.
Yeah.
You've got I don't want to say it's a high voice. It's not.
I have a lower female voice, but it's higher, like somewhere sort of in between.
Yeah, mine is low and rough, and yours is direct. And stuff like that. So we're going to talk about that. By the way, folks, if you're watching this live and you want to ask any questions, then please put them in the chat. Before you do so, make sure you've given StreamYard, which is the service that we're using. You're giving StreamYard permission to show your face and your name so we can recognize you as you give us a comment. I see Facebook user. Thank you, Facebook user. So if you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, StreamYard.com/Facebook, we'll be able to see your name when you then post a comment after you give them the permissions. There you go. Thank you. All right. So, Michelle, here we are, Heil headquarters. And let's do the demonstration first. And then we've got some fun things to do at that. Like, you'll see there's a whole bunch of cool gear around here.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Michelle talk about it after we're done, too, because there's a lot of history in this room.
Yeah.
So I'm on the PR40.
You're on the PR40.
This is the one that I've wanted for years. I finally got one. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it. But I've been told before that I actually sound better on the PR30.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't you're talking into the PR30 right now. Why don't you talk into the 40?
Okay.
And we'll go back and forth with Michelle just to see the difference or hear the difference, actually.
Yeah. About the only time I use a 40 is when our PR guy makes me. Okay. So here's me in a 30 and here's me in a 40. It's like night and day, right?
You sound so flat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just not great for my voice. So what the 40 has is it has a little more low end to its frequency response. And where a microphone peaks in its frequency response is really sort of like critical to how it's going to sound on a voice. So matching that up, it's very hard to do. So one of the things you just have to do is try microphones out and see how they sound for you.
And I know that's kind of difficult for people to try microphones unless they go to a
Right.
guitar center or someplace that has microphones.
Right.
And they may not have the right microphone that we want.
Sure.
The dealerships that you deal with are you in Guitar Center or something like that? Where's Heil?
We're not in Guitar Center. We're in B&H, Typhoto. Most of the online retailers carry our stuff. Sometimes you can order, a couple microphones, and they're pretty forgiving about, like their return policy on
and
those.
There's a rental company too. A rental.
There is. I think it's called MikeRentals.com. I don't remember if it's singular or plural. If you Google it, it'll come up. And they actually have like entire kits that they send out that have like a 40 and a 30 and an interface.
Oh, wow.
So you can try out different configurations. For some people, if you have a host and a co-host situation, you might want, like if we were doing a show together, we would not use the same microphone.
All right, let's go to the next test. I'm now going to use these two. We've got two other mics we're going to test out here as well. So then I'm going to bring over the 30, and we're going to go from the 40 to the 30 on my voice and see how it sounds. So here's me on the 30. See, I actually think I sound a little flatter on this one, but you guys say I sound better.
It's warm.
It's warm. What does warm mean?
It's got a little more low-end presence for your voice, but it sort of hugs it in a nice way. It makes you sound better than you sound in real life.
Okay.
That it almost like EQs your voice for you. This one sounds a lot like you. Mm-hmm. And some people, the 40 just hits them that way. Some people like Pat Flynn have have said like the 40 makes me sound better than I sound in real life. And it just depends on the individual and how that frequency response like matches up or doesn't with their voice is how it can affect the sound.
Okay. Now I'm going to try another one, and then Michelle try the other one. So this is the...
That's the 37. This is going to be
PR?
dramatic. Okay, we're going to move these mics away real quick. We have all the toys here.
Well, we got to test the difference between... Hold on. All right, so I'm going to go real quick from the PR40,
Yeah.
which I still think is the best one for me right now,
Yeah,
to another one. This is which one?
the PR37.
See, now I think this is really flat.
I think it's not quite. I don't think it's very flat on your voice.
No?
No, but the 40 sounds better for you.
Yeah, okay. So then
It's just
Michelle,
your spot.
go between the two.
Okay. Spoiler alert. Can you turn my gain up a little bit? I think I'm softer than you are. Thank you. So this really sounds like me. If you meet me in person, it's kind of a wild deal. This microphone has a very transparent response, which means kind of just sounds how you sound, which for some singers is like, oh my God, that's amazing. And some singers, it's like, I've been hiding behind some distortion and now everyone can hear it. So, so this is the 37. And that's back to the 30. So it's a little warmer and fuller, but that's not really what I sound like in person. It sounds better than me. It's
radio voice.
It's the radio Michelle. Yeah, for sure, radio Michelle.
Now, on the other hand, you've got the PR22.
Yeah, and this is the PR22, and it has a slightly different frequency response. It makes me sound a little more nasally, but for somebody that has a higher pitched voice, this probably would sit like just right for their voice. And these are great options if you have somebody that wants some sort of remote capability. And just to tell you a little bit about my background, because I have literally done every job that the people watching this have done. I used to have my own podcasting studio in Buffalo, New York, and we used to help businesses start podcasts from scratch. So these were like CEOs and doctors and people that, to be blunt, had no idea what they were doing and had never used a microphone before. And so we always tried to tailor their gear setup to how they specifically needed their microphones and gear to function. And I had one that was an emergency room doctor who did training videos and had like conferences. And I guess for those doctors, they have a lot of like certifications they have to constantly keep up on. Yep. And so he needed something that he could take on the road. And so we had like a Zoom H6 and we had a couple of handheld mics that when he was in his studio, he could put on boom arms. And when he had to go, he could just chuck them in his bag and go. Yeah. Now, granted, I had to work a lot with him on teaching him how to use a microphone and hold it because they don't teach that in med school. Shocking.
No, they don't.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they should these days, but they did not teach that in med school. And so we had to work a lot with him and really all of our clients to teach them how to use their gear. But getting the right gear for the specific person was super, super important.
And a couple other things to note is we are using the H6 as an interface. So we are going through a medium to then now streaming to your ears. I don't know if the audio quality on your end is going to be, it's not going to be as good as what we're getting out of the Pro Set 3s because we're at the original source here. But
yeah.
And I can hear a little bit of a hiss from these two mics, but I didn't hear them for the other two.
No, and I think part of it is we have the gain pretty high on these.
Yeah.
Typically a vocal microphone like this, the gain is intended to be lower on them because a person is typically singing into them, which is a lot more forceful than speaking. So you will get a little gain difference between each microphone. The placement of the element inside the body of the microphone has a lot to do with its gain requirements. So, if it's like further down, it needs more gain. This is one of the ones that you'll see a little later if you stick around, being built, and you can see how high up the element is in this. And so there's a lot of things that affect how a microphone sounds, and it's just one of those things you really got to try them out, and knowing what different microphones sound like so you can recommend them to your clients is probably a pretty big deal. Something like that Micronals thing would be a great idea if you're recommending products to your customers so you yourself can know what each kind of microphone sounds like. So when they come to you and they were like, I want a blah, 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 you can go, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, and there's more gear that as producers or sound engineers who set up the gear for our clients or recommend gear to clients. By the way, we're going to get a discount to everybody here in a little bit later. If you want to order some Heil products, you get 15% discount using a special code. We'll get that to you later. I'm sorry. Let's go back.
Okay, yeah. Let's do it. It's more comfortable.
Oh, goodness. This is so much better.
Yeah, it's more comfortable.
I
want to point something out, too. One of the reasons I always recommend dynamic microphones, always, to clients, especially people who are not used to using microphones. So we did not turn off the air conditioning. There's a busy road right outside of this. And I mean, you really cannot, it just drops off.
Yeah.
So if they're recording in an office or their house or wherever, this is the type of microphone that you want to be recommending because it's not going to pick up all those noises. We would be miserable. It's like 100 degrees outside here. We would be very miserable if we were turning off our air conditioning here.
I was miserable on the entire drive here.
It's terrible. Your car literally cools off by the time you get somewhere an hour later.
Yeah. So we're talking about the gear setup. And so first we're talking about the type of microphone. Now the rest of the stuff should be easy. It's almost one size fits all as the other gear comes into play.
Yeah.
As you can probably see, and I don't know if I've got a good background here to show, but we're using what's called a shock mount.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're pretty good in frame. The purple's actually disguising it.
Yeah, my Heil purple shirt, which was not intentional.
No.
Perfect. What's happening is this microphone is sitting in a web of rubber bands, essentially.
Yeah.
And that means that if there's a vibration in this arm, the microphone is being held by this web of rubber bands, and it's not being hit by thumps and vibrations. So the shock mount is better than just a microphone stand, which you might see on a stage. A singer's putting their microphone in the clip. That's a stand. This is a shock mount.
Yeah.
So that helps. And then one thing we're not using, and it's just because for video it's horrible. But the mic.
Oh, the pop screens.
The pop screens.
So just having your clients practice on their microphone, they can get really good at this. And the other critical component. So I use pop screens a lot of time as a training tool with clients. So get the pop screen on them, and depending on how the microphone is arranged, have them either hold their chin on it or their nose. And it'll get them used to being close to their microphone so that they're using it the way, like a broadcaster would. And one trick that I used to do, and this is probably even easier today because we didn't do Zoom calls like every other minute when I was doing my podcasting studio, but have them practice on the microphone, everything. If somebody wanted to have a meeting with me, it was on the mic.
Yeah.
We practiced for I think it was a 10-hour minimum on mic before we recorded a pilot that we threw away.
Oh.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just really made them practice because if you don't practice using a microphone, you don't know how to talk off axis. So I can use a microphone pretty well to where I don't pee pop or, blow breath from my nose into it.
Right.
But I've also been using microphones for 25 years. So there's a lot of things you can do. You can use windscreens. Those don't actually affect the sound of the microphone at all. They're completely acoustically transparent. So don't be afraid of using those, especially if you have somebody that maybe doesn't want the look of a pop screen. But again, the pop screen for training is really great. The other thing is have them in headphones of some sort, any kind. Earbuds, always. I don't care how crappy the earbuds are. If they can hear themselves being on or off the microphone, they'll be very aware of their mic technique, and they'll just get better and better and better.
Yep. Or popping their P's.
Yes, or popping their P's.
Popping their P's. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do it in post.
Yeah. And the boom arm.
Yeah, the scissors arm, boom arm.
This is not something to be ignored in your gear setup, because when you buy a cheap boom arm, this is your huge warning. It's very tempting to buy the $40 Amazon boom arm. They have these external springs on them, and if you touch it, it just goes and it reverberates for a minute, and you have to sit there and wait. And the other thing too, you've seen us moving these around a lot, and they don't make any sound at all. What you probably don't notice, which is kind of the point, is that it's got a channel cover. So the cable's inside the boom arm, but it's not permanently inside the boom arm. So some boom arms where the microphone cable is hidden and it comes with it, it's because it's threaded in at the manufacturing point. And if the cable ever goes out, you're going to have to cut that sucker off and get it out. And I don't know if you know how to solder, but it's going to be fun to get that next cable in.
Yeah, I've had the, what's it, the PR?
The PL2T.
Why is it called the PL2T? It's just like PL2T. It just rolls off your tongue, right?
Yeah, we have product naming. It's the worst thing we do here. Like, we do it by committee, too, and it's like, what are we going to call this?
Yeah, if Edison named every experiment with a number and letter, we might come up with a PL2T.
It's stupid. And all the microphone companies have horrible. We all do it. It's terrible.
Yep.
No one's ever been like, you know what, this is really not great, guys. Let's stop. We just keep going.
So we start with the microphone to get a good sound compared to our voice. You're saying this one is better for the type of voice. It's what?
Women in particular, if you don't have a super low voice, sometimes if you have a really, really low voice, this is actually better. It just kind of depends. Mm-hmm. The 30 and the 40 in general, if you need a generic sort of podcasting microphone, say you have a studio that you're providing equipment for, and you need 4 mics that can sit in there all the time. Either one of these is going to be a pretty safe bet.
Okay. And then we had the 2 over here. Now, I actually kind of liked you on the 22. The clarity was there.
It's very, very clear.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that you're going to notice in all of our microphones is a lot of articulation. There's not a lot of muddiness. Mm-hmm. And all of our microphones were developed with that in mind. That was super, super important, that everything be very articulate and clear.
So what kind of voice do you think more matches a 22, PR22?
Probably voices like mine, higher pitched. Some men sound really good on them. We have Grammy award-winning artists that are using that are men.
Well, we say men. I mean, it's just like every voice is going to be a little bit different. So we can't discern so much between men and women. Because I know that I wish
I knew like the technical names for the registers, like soprano, alto. That's more of a singing voice kind of thing. But the other thing too about the 22 is it's a very budget friendly option. It's a little over $100.
Oh, that's
so a lot of people think they can't get pro quality microphones for those prices, but you really can. And these are microphones that you can keep forever. So even if you start out with some smaller remote setup for a client, say they don't want to commit as much to their podcasting budget initially for their gear, it doesn't mean you have to go like junky USB mic. Yeah. Then they're going to expect you to make sound great.
I'm glad you went there, because now we got to talk about, we've got all the mics we've shown are now XLR mics.
Yes.
Now for the people who know, it's pretty easy to understand. XLR mic is the big professional on stage microphone cable you plug in. Can I unplug this?
Yeah.
That has the 3 prongs, the things there that go into the back of a microphone. Now, some microphones have both the XLR connection and a USB. Our favorite ATR 2100 and the Samsung Q. Can I say that in this room?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Lightning strikes.
Yeah.
But, so this requires an interface, which if you watch the live stream we did just a couple days ago, the Focusrite, we're talking about an interface. Right now we're using the Zoom H6 as an interface because it has 4 inputs, and that's what you had laying around. It was dusty from COVID, but it was here.
Yeah.
So we had that. That was great. Even though we have some fantastic mixers around here, just you can't touch them.
No.
We'll talk about those later.
Yeah.
So we've got the XLR microphones, but then we're talking about the easy connection USB mics.
Yeah. And if you've ever used one of those hybrid ones where it has the option for the USB and the XLR, if you've ever plugged in the XLR, you can hear what the difference is. And it's a lot because it's a different compression situation that's going on between the USB and the XLR. The XLR is always going to sound better. It's what every professional like radio station and studio and musician uses. Our microphones, you can regularly see them in almost all the Sirius radio stations.
Now, I know that Heil does have a USB.
No.
Wait, what was the 77?
No, it's a 3-pin XLR.
Oh, why did I think that was a USB?
Yeah. No, we have all...
You won't cross that bridge.
Well, we've tried to cross that bridge. The thing is that people want it to sound like this.
Yeah.
Through a USB. And I think if we made a PR40 USB and it didn't sound like a PR40, it would be no good.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the challenge that we continue to run into in working on USB products, is making sure that the audio quality matches everything else.
Now, I know that, and we're talking a lot of microphones here, but the PR77 is one that came out 4 years ago, 3 years ago. It was like 4 years ago, because that's when we were here and you just released it. And you have a purple model.
Yeah, it's right behind you.
I'll bring it over. But now, what type of person's voice works well on a mic like this?
So here's something that's really interesting. That actually has a PR40 element in it.
Yay!
It doesn't sound like a PR40 though, because the positioning of the element and how an element can breathe really changes the way a microphone behaves and sounds. So a dynamic microphone is a speaker in reverse, and we have a massive speaker behind Steve here. Can you see this guy? This is a 30-inch bass speaker. It's crazy. So if you open up the inside of one of these microphones, it looks like a little tiny speaker. It's got like 2 circles, and the inner circle is that little area in the middle of the speaker. A speaker and a dynamic microphone are virtually the same thing. They just work in reverse. So a speaker takes an audio signal and turns it into sound waves, and a dynamic microphone takes sound waves and turns them into an audio signal. So in speaker design, the resonant housing of a speaker greatly impacts how the speaker is tuned and how it performs, right? Think about if you've ever done home theater stuff, you have like little tweeters and big subwoofers, and the size changes how the speaker sounds and behaves.
Because you're moving air.
Yes.
And it has to go in one direction, not just bounce around and land on.
So microphones are the same thing. So when you change the shape and when you change how the air flows, it changes how the microphone sounds. And this is a side address microphone, and that's an end fire microphone. So they sound quite different. It still sounds really good. It just doesn't sound like a PR40, and it's the same element.
And she brought up another very important coaching point, which we all know for people who bought something called a blue something or other, that these are top fire, meaning you talk into the top of them. You can't talk to the side of them and get the same effect. In fact, I don't know if you even heard what I said. But top fire, we're talking. But what she's saying is, this is a side address where you talk into the side of it, and that's what a Blue Yeti does. So people need to understand that microphones, you can't just talk into the top of this one and hear it the same way, because the microphone, the pattern is picked up here. Yeah,
it's super important to know where the element is in your microphone and where it's facing, or you're not going to know how to use it. And when we first introduced these microphones, we literally had people call and go, "This thing sounds terrible." And we would go, "Are you speaking into the side of it?" And they would always say, "Yes."
Yeah. So best if you have a new client or a client who's trying a new microphone, get on, even if it's a Zoom call. I don't like Zoom audio, but at least you can get them on there quick and test out their mic and make sure that they're using it properly. I found I had a client that bought a microphone. They were using it for their Zoom meetings in their office, and they had one of those clam-shaped sound thingies around it. And I was like, this doesn't sound right. And I'm like, okay, go to the right and talk to it, and then go to the left and talk to it. Talk to it on the top, and we couldn't figure out what was. It's a company I'd never heard of before.
Was the element on the backside?
I don't know. It was like a $20 microphone that got on Amazon.
No.
So I tried to get him buying a different mic, and he's like, well, then I got to disconnect everything here and plug it. And I was like, whatever. So now I've got to EQ it differently because. Plus, it's not good for his voice. So now I know even more that I can help direct him to a better microphone.
Yeah.
To get to him there. Of course, he wants a USB, so that's going to be my big challenge. So we get him a real microphone.
Send him an interface and go see the USB part on the end.
Yeah.
It's a USB.
Interface that USBs to the computer, so at least he's got the connection to his device. XLR to the microphone, which is in a shock mount. So, I'm touching it, so you can hear that. But you don't hear, like when we were holding the mics earlier, you could hear the hand holding of the mic.
Yeah.
We could hear it.
You can on handheld mics. Again, it's part of the gain situation too. You can, we have the gain up pretty high on these.
Yeah.
The more gain you have on a handheld microphone or any microphone, the more it's going to pick up. Yeah. That's just the nature of any microphone, really. And that's one of the problems people have with those USB condensers is they get them and they plug them in and they want to sit, like a foot away from the microphone. And then when they turn the gain up to where it can hear them, it can also hear like the dishwasher and the neighbor's dog. So you got that going for you then.
Yes, and then we have the boom arms we're talking about, which not just does it help, shock mount and all that stuff. It positions it right in front of their mouth, but they can also push it away when they're not ready to.
I honestly like these with my beginner microphone users. Another tip is get them in a heavy chair without wheels, and they can't get away from their mic.
And that's why I kind of liked the pop filter, because it was a target.
Yes,
it made them more conscious about where to speak. Because then if they're doing something like this, and let me look at my screen.
Yep.
No, stay on target, and that's why I did like those things. But of course, with video, everybody's like trying to do streaming video or recording video, so they can throw it on YouTube and all that stuff. This is not good.
Yeah.
So I understand.
Yeah. And one of the things that we did with this, because we were going to be doing this video component, is we flipped. A lot of times when you see these, they're sort of dangling down.
Right.
You can just invert that. You can pretty much get these just almost out of shot. If you have a quiet environment, you can turn the gain up a little bit, and it will pick up further away. We just don't have a quiet environment. I hear a loud car going by, I can't hear it through the microphone, but I can hear it through my headphones. But,
I didn't hear it in the mics.
No, it's not going through.
The mics, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a motorcycle, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty loud.
Hot rod.
It was pretty loud.
Big hot rod guy. Okay, so we've got the mics, we got the shock mounts, we got the scissors arms, makes it easy to move and stuff like that. XLR, USB interfaces we talked about with Focusrite goes to the computer. Mic techniques, I think we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, and one of the things, most all dynamic microphones are designed to be close talked, so like 2 finger widths away. I can't emphasize enough, force your clients to practice. They are not going to want to, especially if they're CEOs or doctors. But it was literally my rule that you wanted to have a conversation with me, it was on the microphone.
Yeah.
So then I just took advantage of every situation I could get them to practice. And I really tried to emphasize with my clients, because they were all podcasting for marketing purposes. I'm like, if you want to be an authority in your field, you need to sound like you know what you're doing.
Yes.
There is no starting a marketing podcast that is going to make your business better that makes you sound like you have no idea what you're doing.
And on this mic, I don't sound like I know what I'm doing. I don't like that mic.
That's so funny.
I'm still on these 30s and 40s. There's one more thing. Oh, yeah, and of course the headphones.
Headphones.
Now, you said any when it's a guest, absolutely. Any headphones, anything to keep they can hear themselves, and most importantly, they don't hear you coming through their speakers. It goes back into the mic and back. Sorry, I'm going to die on that hill. Always wear headphones.
Oh,
but
always.
These are cool for editing. We're back to editing. My favorite.
I know.
These are great for editing because they have a switch on this. Wait, yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
A switch on the side.
I'm on the wrong side too.
Which allows you to jump to what's called the phase mode. Which so explain the phase mode on the Pro Set 3.
Yeah, so what this does is it moves the audio signal between your ears. Now, when you first flip this on, if a great way to understand this is to put music on through them, because music typically comes through both ears at the same time. And it's very noticeable when one ear goes out. So what this does is it moves the signal between the ear cups. And so if you're spending a lot of time editing podcasts, so for instance, my first podcast I worked on was 50 Years of Maximum Rock and Roll with Bob Heil, the Heil Sound podcast. We had some episodes, we're talking 40-minute episodes that took 10 hours in post-production. No joke. We've all been there, okay? You always have that client that is just one of the things that I have seen with a lot of my clients is they just sort of get bored with the process. And this was an autobiographical thing. So we were constantly trying to get the content out the way we wanted him to tell it, right? If someone's excited to tell a story of their own, they tell it in a way that's very interesting. And when they don't want to tell a story of their own, it's just this happened, and we were done. And it's okay, we can't use that. Let's redo it. So we had a lot of episodes where we spent a lot of time on them, and I would spend hours and hours and hours, and our editors, our engineers would spend hours and hours and hours, but I would edit all the content and tell them, because we had so many takes, we would edit and edit and edit. And so if you flip that phase switch, it'll move that signal. And so 10 hours on the ears feels more like 5 hours.
Yeah.
You don't have that like brain fatigue that happens when you're just
haven't
assaulted.
had enough time to play with the set that I bought, and I think it was delivered last week. I haven't had enough
Yeah.
time, but I'm really liking it here though. Even it's coming through. This isn't even the best setup for this these headphones because it's going mics to the H6 to a headphone splitter, then to us.
Yeah.
So there could be a better setup at home, just direct. But
Yeah.
I'm liking these here for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super important to have gear you can rely on and that can help you get a better finished product.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that. Oh, you can fix that in post.
Yes. Folks, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'd like to answer them. I've got Michelle here from Heil Sound
Yeah.
at heilsound.com. She's going to give a discount code, too. If you want to order any gear from her, we're going to give that discount out to you here in a little bit. I think Mark will have a banner at the bottom with our promo code. So you just go to their website, and before you check out, make sure you put in the promo code. Gives you
15% off
of
anything.
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 Even the ham radio stuff.
No, I did not
No.
turn it on the ham radio
okay.
site. It's only on the pro site, only on heilsound.com.
Well, I know it works on multiple products because I've already added a PR40, a PL2T,
Yay,
Nice.
Mark.
Nice.
and what's the other thing in my cart there? The headphones, the Pro Set 3s. And yeah, the 15% off works on all of it.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
So put that, Mark, if you could make a banner at the bottom so it sits there for them so they know what the promo code is and they can order some gear as well. And we're not here just for that. I was going to share a story earlier and I forgot because we were getting into a really good discussion, but I think it's really funny. And we were talking about the, what do I call it? The cardioid pattern. What is it?
The polar pattern?
No, what's the device inside that captures the...
Oh, the element?
The element, yes.
Yeah.
It's such an usual. It's a normal word, but I can't remember. Anyway, the element sits in there, and I was remembering back. So I grew up in Chicago, or at least my teen years were in Chicago, and I grew up during Chicago House Sound. I mean, it was Chicago House started. I was there.
Nice.
And I was hanging out. I was a DJ as well, and I was hanging out with the guys who were with the guys who started the Chicago House Sound, and we're doing a house party in Elgin, Illinois.
I know where that is.
This school, they rented out the gymnasium one night. Guy brings in his crates, brings in his flight case, got the Technics turntables out there. He's got his mixer. He forgot his headphones, or he forgot his microphone at home. So how do you make announcements? Tell me if this still works today. I don't think it does. He took his headphones, plugged them into the microphone input, and talked through his headphones. And it was horrible sounding, but he was
Yes.
able to talk to the crowd that way.
Yes, that's what I was talking about with the speaker. It's just the same thing. It's just in reverse. I'm not saying it's going to sound good,
It didn't.
but it would work.
But
Yes.
he got everybody's attention. Raise your hand.
Yeah.
No, he didn't
Yeah,
raise
yeah,
your hand, so.
Yeah.
I had to tell that story. I thought it was fun. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and Mark's got the code down there for 15% off at heilsound.com. And I'm going to have Michelle talk about some of the gear that's around here. And then
Yeah.
Mark's going to queue up a video for after that to show people the warehouse. But if you've got questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll come back and we'll definitely address them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while you're getting situated to do that, I'm going to talk just a little bit. I want you guys, everybody who is recommending gear to their clients, to their friends, whatever, you guys should be signing up as affiliate sellers through Amazon, through manufacturers direct, whatever works best for you. If you're going to be recommending these products to people, you should at least be getting a commission off of it as a part of, the business model. We even have some podcast producers that are actual like direct dealers for us, and they do a lot of business. And you might as well make it a part of your business model and your revenue stream for your business.
All right, so you want to walk us around?
Yes.
Do you want to grab a handheld and start with...
Michelle, I have one
Yeah.
question for you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, while Steve is doing that, I'm looking around on the Heil Sound website. There's also a B stock. Tell me a little bit about B stock, because I notice our
Yeah.
coupon works on the B stock as well. So what makes a product end up in B stock? What's the difference?
So a B stock microphone here is just one that we end up having like a scratch or a dent to. They're all new products, but we just have really high standards for our products. And if there are any imperfections in them, they go to B stock land. They still have the same warranty, so no concerns there. And we often have fins in there. If you've, here, I'm going to grab a fin.
Yeah, I saw right now you've got PR40, a chrome and gold.
Yeah.
There's only one chrome one left, but
Yeah.
maybe a couple gold. And there is a fin in there for the B stock. And David says still works 100%. I don't know if he's talking about the B stock, but that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the stuff I'm standing in front of. This is really cool. Heil Sound is 55 years old. We actually started out as a music store, and it was called Heil Music Shop. And the company was one of the first music stores that was, it's kind of the, I would say, the precursor to how music stores are now, where you could walk in and they had multiple versions of something and you could take one right home with you. Before that, everything was kind of like, would you like a Fender guitar? Okay, we will order you a Fender guitar and it will be here when it gets here. And so because of this, people like Jimi Hendrix would fly planes into the fields of Marissa, Illinois, where our headquarters were at that time, and they would come in and buy gear from us. And one day, the Grateful Dead was headed to St. Louis, and en route from New Orleans, their entire sound system and their sound guy got confiscated by the DEA. And they ended up in St. Louis with nothing. And the people at the Fox Theater knew Bob and knew he had all this sound equipment. And they said, hey, how fast can you get over here with that stuff? And he was like, not fast. It's big, and I have to pack it all up. And so he did. He made it work. He went over to the Fox Theater. They started the show hours late, but let's face it, hippies don't care about things like that. And the rest was kind of history. They started making large fiberglass PAs. I'm going to take my headphones off. So these are actually some of the original fiberglass horns that we made for sound stages like the Grateful Dead and the Who. If you find old pictures of them, you'll see some of the gear. Like that would be a whole stage setup that you would see back here. Yeah. Yeah. And then this is the 30-inch speaker. This was used almost as like a marketing ploy by Bob. It used to have a big banner that said Yield Music Shop. It appeared on stages of Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. If you're interested in these stories, you should definitely check out our podcast because Bob just tells a bunch of them. And I've known Bob for like 23 years. And as I was editing the show, I would be like, he's never told me this story before. How is that even possible? So we have lots of like crazy goodies in here. This is an amp from the Rolling Stones. One of these is from the Beatles. And one of them has a tag on it that says, "This is the walrus, don't sell, you will die." The tag is still there and the amp is still here. So we just, I mean, if it has a sign on it like that, you don't mess with it, right? Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah. So if you can see some of these things. So one of the things that we were known for doing is building modular mixers. We'll let Steve catch up. And so the idea behind this was if you had a channel in your mixer that went out, you just pulled that channel out. It had a case and a quarter, so you could call Heil Sound from the payphone. And you shipped this via a Greyhound bus because UPS was not a thing back then that people could use. So you put your channel. After you called us and told us it was coming, you would put it on a Greyhound bus, and the stuff would come back to Marissa, and we would fix it. We would send it back out. Yeah. And so our mixers, they were all made up of these things. And, you know, it sort of changed that gear. Oh, yeah, yeah.
One last thing. Tell the story.
This sucker's heavy.
Yeah.
So this is a talk box. If you've never heard of the talk box, you've probably heard of people that use the talk box like Peter Frampton and Joe Walsh. Modern bands like Tool have used the talk box. I can tell you what a talk box is, but it's a very nerdy thing to explain to somebody. Basically, your guitar amp or whatever electrified instrument. Somebody told me that someone was using this on a banjo recently, and I was like, that's just weird. But hey, So the amplified audio goes into the talk box and then it goes back into your mouth and you through a tube, and you manipulate the audio with the cavity of your mouth back into a microphone. It's a weird thing. He used it a lot. Yeah. Yeah. There is an audio sample in the podcast of Peter Frampton during a sound check saying, "Hello, Bob Heil."
Oh, wow.
Through TalkBox audio.
Oh, that's right. He used it, Frampton.
Frampton Comes Alive.
Yes, he used
Yeah. So that's a really cool thing. But yeah, the TalkBox is a weird. I asked Adam Jones of Tool once, like, what it feels like, because I was like, I'm not a guitar player. I don't, I've never used one of these things. And he said it feels like someone is trying to rattle the fillings out of your teeth. And I was like, that's kind of what I thought he was going to say.
So strange.
So strange, but it has a neat sound. It's a neat little thing. And we made a few different guitar effects pedals way back in the day. But in the early 2000s, we started making microphones, and that's kind of where our focus has been since then. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We get to meet a lot of interesting people that use microphones, like Steve Stewart.
We're going to tell him we're going to reset and have Mark play the video.
Yeah, Mark, can you play the video for us?
I sure can. Hold on while I queue up that video, everyone. I'm going to add that to the stream. I'm going to just going to take you out of the stream here for a moment. Forgive me, everyone, while I'm dealing with a little bit of tech. And let's play that video.
All right, here we are in the assembly hall, not really assembly hall, of the back room of Heil headquarters.
Production area.
This is the production area. This is where they all get built. This is actually the capsules for the PR22s. We've got capsules over here, getting ready to be built for 35s. All right, and then we're going to come over here. You can see where now we just have walls.
This is Willy Wonka's storehouse, really. We have lots of 35s, different colors of those, 30s, great podcaster mic, 22 UTs, 20 UTs, love those.
We got to go back over here because, we've got one of my favorites, the Heil fins.
The fin.
The ones that glow blue.
Beautiful.
You also have the ones that glow red.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so awesome. I just love being around all this gear. I know we don't talk about gear in the group, but what's the Pro Micros?
These are ham radio
headsets and stuff? Yeah.
PL2T. Love this boom.
The 77s. Are those the purple ones?
Purple and black.
Uh-huh. These are the ones that look a little more like old-time radio.
Yeah, modeled after an RCA 77, hence the name.
Beautiful. PLT2s, the boom arms, and then, of course...
Shelf after shelf of PR40. Different colors. Yeah, it's very exciting. New packaging. If you haven't seen the new packaging, it's very neat.
We know where it comes from now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we wanted to reveal. It's just a little bit of the back room here of Heil headquarters. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks.
Camera. Yay!
Can you hear us? Are we back? Yes. Okay.
You are. And I realized that I was muted there when I said, hello, everyone. All right. I'm going to go hide backstage again.
Nice.
Okay, so are there any questions?
Yeah, do you guys have any questions? Let's see. Nice amplifiers in the back. Are they still working? No, they are not. And we have to I also have an art history background. It's all weird and complicated, but we have to clean these with a dry paintbrush because the foam in them is 50 years old.
I have a DJ flight case with the foam, and it's all deteriorated.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
20 years old.
You can't even breathe in his general direction. I think.
Wow.
Yeah, but there's still foam in them, and if you get anywhere near it while you're trying to dust, it's just poof.
Yeah, yeah.
So no, they don't work. You can see that the cone is broken in this one if you were here in person in the 30-inch. I don't even know how, I can only, we have a good reconer here in St. Louis. I don't know if you know that. If you have vintage speakers, you can get them reconed. We have vintage speakers at our house. So they recently got reconed. I think if we took that over there, the guy would be like, "You're crazy."
Hey, Mark, will you mute yourself for a second? Thanks. He was breathing in the mic. I just want to make sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I got to ask a question because I just noticed it. Are the handles on these doors, are there any history behind that, or is it just a decoration?
Okay, so we used to have Heil Sound has been like a phoenix of a company. It's been so many different things over the years. And for a period, we had a home theater division. And so we had home theater showrooms in here. And so that office space through there used to be like a closed off, like Roxy home theater, like red velvet curtains for walls sort of situation. And that room in there was like a living room. And so my office, which is the room in there, actually has like a fireplace in it, which is strange, but that's my office.
Yeah. But the handles, I noticed there's some elements in the handles. What is that?
There's just lights.
So we have lit hand. Okay, I thought maybe that was some kind of a, like the vacuum tubes. From the
Oh
old days
no,
of
that would be
fires.
cool. That
Wouldn't
would be cool.
But man, you wouldn't put those as those are glass. So.
No, yeah, that would.
Yeah, these are
that would
a
break.
little more durable. Okay, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that. Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions, folks? Go ahead and put them in the chat for Michelle. I know we were talking a lot about gear and stuff, but the idea for this live stream was to get more of a sense of different voices sound different on different microphones, and we need different gear to be able to get a better sound out of these devices.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is secondary, but also important.
Yeah. I mean, when you're producing a show, when you're editing a show, the last thing you want to deal with is bad audio, because let's face it, most of the time the content has to be cleaned up as well.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just eliminate one of those factors by making the audio coming in sound really good? Part of that is training, and the other part of it is having audio gear that you can depend on, and the right kind of audio gear for the right environment for the right person.
I might have to buy a PR30 and mail it to a couple of my clients and have them try them.
Yeah.
Because they're using the gear that I used to recommend, which is easy. It's easy. And of course, if they're just doing Zoom chats, then it's fine. But when you're recording a podcast, there's some I just know I can up the level of their quality a little bit. And I think it's going to make a difference now to the point that they're established. What I don't want to do is tell somebody who's brand new to buy a brand new microphone that they'll only use for 7 episodes. I want to get them into it. But
Yeah.
if they're set, if they're ready to go and they want it to sound decent, it's worth the time and effort to figure out which mic it is, get the gear set up properly, learn the mic technique so that they sound good without us having to EQ too much.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And, most of the time, my normal setup here, just to do interviews, to do podcasts, like I'm not normally out here in the lobby. This is very fancy for us. I did this just for Steve here. Yeah, I normally just have like a 2-channel Focusrite, like Focusrite 2i2. I actually have a 1st gen that I use.
Wow, yeah.
I've had it forever. I've had like 3 different Focusrites. We have one at home. We have Focusrites everywhere. And they're honestly as easy as plugging in a USB mic, because you just plug it in,
Right.
you gain up your mic. That's it.
Yeah,
And
I'm really liking the
let
Vocaster.
your post-production people do all the rest and don't mess with it. That's kind of the nice thing about the interface. I will say that in terms of like buying gear for your client or recommending gear, like if you give them a mixer, they might turn the knobs.
Yep. And that's what I do. I turn the knobs and I'm like, wait, which
Yeah.
one
And they
sounded
won't
best?
read the book.
No,
They'll
is
just
there a
turn the
book?
knobs.
There's a book?
Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you though, the first, we got a new mixer a few years ago, which actually isn't even working anymore. But we got this new mixer and I made the mistake of thinking that 0 was at 12 o'clock. Because usually you have negative values left and positive values right on those knobs. Well, this company hadn't done that. And so I set everything to 12 o'clock and we plugged in a microphone and it had vocal effects on it.
Oh.
And it sounded so weird. And so it was me and our sales manager, because we were getting ready for a trade show, and we had headphones on and we were out in the production area that you guys got to see. And so people were standing around building products and we were being just idiots because we thought we were being funny, only they couldn't hear the effects that we could hear. So they just heard us like singing badly into microphones. It was, Yeah, I'm not embarrassed. It was pretty funny. It was hilarious. Yeah.
I wanted to pull up one more thing before we left, but it's going to take me a couple minutes. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do it.
Oh,
Not
okay.
going to be able to do it.
Uh-oh. What was it?
You'll hear it in a second. if I can
Okay.
get it. I should. If I had known we were going to go there, I didn't know we were going to go there. So,
Yeah.
okay. So, David, thank you for joining us. I know you're a big fan of Heil. He said he was listening to a interview with Bob Heil a while ago. I forget the story, but he talked about it during a live stream he had the other day with Focusrite. But I was going to see if I could find that spot where Joe Walsh is using the voice
Oh,
box.
the talk box.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm not able to find it. Oh,
Yeah.
right here.
There it is.
That's the voice box.
That's the talk box. Yeah.
So we've all heard that song. If you listen
Yeah.
to any station that plays anything older than 10 years, you're going to
Yeah.
hear that song. So
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. A lot of people when they meet us now, they'll go, "Oh, you guys still make the talk box?" It's like, no.
Yeah.
Dunlop actually makes the talk box now. The rights of the talk box
Oh.
were sold
They still put that.
many, many years ago.
Bing 'em
Yeah.
up and-
Yeah.
I just do it in post.
You can just do that in post, right?
Isotope has a plugin. There's a plugin for something like that.
Like
Maybe
a
not
talk
ex-
box plugin.
Maybe not exactly.
They
that,
probably can't say talk box plugin.
but a vocoder type thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I'm a big fan of. All right.
That's funny.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Hey, thanks for coming out.
Yep.
Driving
has
all
been
this
fun.
way in the extreme heat.
Yep. Folks, this has been a live stream from Heil headquarters with sponsor of the Podcast Services Mastermind Workshop. It's an in-person workshop in Dallas, Texas on August 23rd. It's going to be at Podcast Movement. We're doing it in collaboration with Podcast Movement. It is a separate registration from Podcast Movement, but it's totally worth your time if you're trying to grow a business as a service provider. So what we want is getting people who are podcast editors, podcast managers, show notes writers, coaches, consultants. If you're going to be creating a business that serves podcasters and you want to create a business, this is the way that you come together and you work through building your business model. Mark is all about business models. He knows exactly what he's talking about. I'm going to be sitting at the tables too, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Tickets are at podcasteditorsconference.com, podcasteditorsconference.com. August 23rd, Dallas, Texas, 9 to 5, and we're going to have a special guest stop by. Mark doesn't even know this yet. He is going to stop by. We're going to have a special guest stop by, and if you're, he's a fan. I'm a fan. I'm a big
You're a
fan. I'm a huge fan. So I can't say any more because I'm going to confirm the details next week.
Nice.
Yes. So this has been Steve Stewart. That has been
Michelle Levitt.
And in the background is,
Heil Sound.
yes, and our moderator, Mr.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark Deal.
You're welcome. Yep, I was in the back. Everyone, links for what we've talked about are in the comments below, as well as heilsound.com. Use coupon code editors2022 for 15% off of anything. Just throw a bunch of stuff in your cart, and that the discount keeps adding up. And yes,
Except ham radio.
Yeah.
Except ham radio.
perhaps not ham radio, but the
Yeah,
B
it's-
stock does
it's
work.
separate psych.
I have a Heil Finn B stock I bought here years ago.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. No, I didn't see what was wrong with it. So I don't know what
They're
you guys did.
very picky out there.
Very.
Picky.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at them like, I can't.
Yeah. So I'm going
I
to plug it
can't
back
see
in
it.
again because I like the glowing blue. It's just sexy for live streams.
So good looking.
But today is all about purple. Thank you, Michelle, for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week for a live stream with Squadcast. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. Bye, everyone.